Hi there. Today's episode of Indie Author Blueprint is going to be kind of a practical one. My name is Michelle Rayburn, and one of the things I want to do on this show and in the notes that I make for you is help you work through the processes that you need to do as a CEO. And you're the CEO of your publishing company. And that means that you're going to have some essential steps that you need to take to ensure that your publishing efforts are treated as a serious business venture. So today we're talking about the indie publisher as business owner. The first thing that I want to do today is talk about analyzing your genre. Then we're going to be talking about the market and then how to treat your business venture, your publishing as a business venture. We're going to be talking about quality, creating a marketing plan, some legal stuff, just a little bit. We're going to be talking about knowing your weaknesses and how to avoid some shortcuts. And then what I want you to know is that today's episode has a worksheet. This is a free episode. It is not a paid episode, but I want you to see what worksheets are kind of like that I'm going to be creating for future episodes. It's a printable worksheet that you can get from the notes, and then you'll be able to print that out, or you could fill it out on your device if you want to. It's going to help you think through the things that I talk about in this episode. So you can go to the show notes and you can grab that worksheet and use that. So what I'm going to do is give you a little summary of each of the things, and then you're going to take that worksheet and you're going to be working through it and answering some of the questions, because it's going to help you with figuring out some of the things that you need as a CEO of your publishing company. Now, if you haven't listened to other episodes and you don't know what I'm talking about with the CEO, you are the business manager as the indie author and publisher. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be talking about is analyzing your genre. And first, you might already know who you're writing your book to, like your audience. But then once you know that, once you know like who I'm writing it to, like what genre is this? And if you're in fiction, for example, you know that there are romance novels and there are mysteries and suspense and cozy mysteries and contemporary and all those kinds of things. And then in nonfiction, there's self-help and there's Christian living and memoir, biography, all of that. So you have to know, like, what is my genre? So once you determine what that is, and you might have to ask some people for help, and because you might not be sure what really is my genre. Once you have that, you need to look at least 3 successful books in that genre and analyze those. And so as you look at that, and this is like looking at some market research and what we call comparables, okay? So I want you to look at what their covers look like. Like, what colors are they using? What kinds of fonts? Are they modern? Are they mostly photograph based? What is it about them? Is there anything similar? And you can look at more, but at least look at some, and 3 successful ones. And make sure that you're looking at ones that are traditionally published. You're going to get a little bit better picture of that because as self-publishing ones, maybe they broke the rules a little bit. So let's stick with the ones that are bigger name publishers that you know. So what does the cover look like? What categories and keywords are they using? Let's, for right now, stick with categories because you have to have a tool to analyze what keywords they're using. But you could look like in their titles. At keywords, you can look at like, are they all using this one word? Is that like, I'm going to give an example, like in nonfiction, maybe a hot topic is self-care, let's say. And that's a keyword. Are they all using that in the title itself? That says something about that particular genre. So looking at the covers, looking at the categories, you can see where it's listed, where it's selling. And then just take some notes about what makes these books appealing to readers. You might read some of the reviews and just analyze them as if you're picking it apart a little bit. Okay, so then the next step is understanding the market. And what you want to do is define your target audience and understand the demand for your book. Your book is not written for every woman or every man or every child. It is definitely targeted down to a particular ideal reader. And so you want to look at a little bit about their age and some things about them that You would group them and say, these are the particular people that if I could sit and have coffee with them and I could just, speak to 10 people who fit these qualities, that's who I'm writing this book for. So you want to look at what problems or desires does your book address and how does it stand out from others. So you're trying to understand who is buying this book. And that means like, what kind of words are they typing into Amazon as a search engine to get to your book? And that's why I said something about keywords. It's like, what are they putting into a search engine to meet their needs to get there? The third thing that you want to do as you're acting like the business owner is to treat your publishing as a business venture. And that means writing out a simple business plan for the publishing of your book. I know that a lot of spouses would really appreciate this because it helps them to understand that you're treating this seriously and not just as a hobby. You might be doing it in your free time and you might be doing it like in all of your free time. It might be taking a lot of your time right now to work on your book. And so when you have a business plan, it really gives some legitimacy to what you're doing. So what's your budget? What are your financial goals? Am I going to hope to break even or make a profit? Am I hoping that eventually this becomes like a little extra money that on the side, or is it just a hobby? So just really thinking about that. What resources, what time, money, and skills are you going to need to invest? Are you going to need to learn some skills, or are you going to invest in some training? Do you need to go to a writer's conference to work on your writing skills? Do you need to hire a professional coach to work on the publishing side? So you're treating it as a business venture. These things are all going to be on the worksheet with some questions for you too. Okay, so then the next thing when you're treating it as a business is you're striving for quality. And so here you're going to identify who are the professionals that you need to hire. The editor, the cover designer. You're going to ask yourself some questions. In what areas am I confident in? Like maybe you're a graphic designer. Maybe you don't know exactly how to design books, but you know how to design. And I'm going to give you a tip there because some people have a really good eye for design, but they don't realize that book's going to sell in a teeny little thumbnail size on Amazon and people are shopping while they're scrolling. And so when you're designing, you have to be thinking about like, what do they see in that postage stamp size? And so those are some things that maybe you need to learn. Like, how do I transfer these skills I have into the book world? How can I use them there? Ask yourself, where do you need professional help? What is your plan for ensuring a high quality finished product? How are you going to do that? What are the non-negotiables, that you're going to make sure you're going to have the right people doing that. Okay, then the fifth thing that when you're treating this as a business is you're creating a marketing plan. This is a strategy to market your book effectively. It doesn't mean that you have to have it be super, super detailed. It can be, but it also needs to be something that's actionable for you. So if you create a marketing plan that's not realistic, and I've seen this in traditional book proposals where I know that person's not going to do all those things. So you really need it to be something that you could effectively do to market your book. So what platforms will you use to promote your book? Are you speaking? That's a big way that I promote my books is I speak at events, and then people purchase my books when I'm speaking. How will you engage with your audience? Where will you see that target reader that you just described? Where do you connect with them, and how do you help them see the need for what you've written for them? And what is your timeline for marketing activities? So, you might want to spell out, like, what are my goals? Because marketing is overwhelming and you're going to need to break it down a little bit because I can't do all the things. My ideas are bigger than my time. And so I really have to break it down into things that I can do. Okay, number 6, as a business owner, there's some legal stuff you need to think about. You need to set up the legal and business frameworks that you need. And for some people, it's maybe more in depth, and for others it's simpler. So first off, maybe your state requires you to register a business with the doing business as or an EIN, the employee identification number. You need to look into that. I can't really know what every state does because I know they're different. I live in the Midwest in Wisconsin, and it's actually not very hard for me to get a seller's permit so that I can sell my books on tables and collect sales tax and file that, and then register doing business as with my publisher name so that if I get those royalty statements from Amazon, it's not confusing for my tax purposes to have this business name and nobody knows what it is. But I don't have to have like a business license where I live. I live rurally. There's no, I don't live in a city, so I don't have to have that registered. I also don't have an LLC, but some people do. And so you need to look as a business owner at what you need to have. And some people will tell you you have to have things you don't necessarily need. So you get to weigh that out because like the LLC is one I've chosen not to pursue, but some people have said you must have, so that is going to be up to you, but you're going to need to make a little plan on what do I need to have legally. The other thing is like, what is my plan to manage taxes and royalties? I file a Schedule C with my personal taxes with my husband, and I track every dollar I make on selling books and doing the freelance work that I do. And I also track my expenses and all of that stuff. And so I have a CPA who helps to get that all pulled into my taxes so I have someone I can ask questions on. And I'm willing to pay that person because I don't have to worry about some of the questions I have. But I have to put in my own tax info on Amazon when I set up my publishing platform on KDP, because they're going to pay me royalties. And at the end of the year, they're going to send me a 1099. And so I need to understand some of that tax stuff and how that works. Now, I'm not running a big corporation. I don't have employees and all of that stuff. If you have employees and you're running a bigger operation with your publishing business, you're going to follow what you need to do for that. So the legal side of things. I also have used some legalities as a publisher when I'm doing these compilations for other people's work. I give them a contract that says, this is what I'm going to do with your piece when I print it. But it tells them the rights belong to them. I had an attorney look over that contract so that I had some legal input when I wrote that. So you're going to make a list of all the things you need to do. The seventh thing that you're going to do, we have only 2 more here. Number 7, as a business owner, avoid shortcuts. And so this is a time for you on the worksheet to reflect on some potential shortcuts and why you should avoid them. So you can listen to previous episodes of Indie Author Blueprint where I've talked about some shortcuts in publishing. You can list out some that you'd be tempted to take, like skipping the editing. And then you need to look at why you should avoid them. Okay, number 1, I'm going to say don't skip the editing, because that's number 1, the thing. When I buy a book, I read that sample, and if I see the first 5 pages have a ton of issues, I'm not buying that book. So anyway, you list out what some of the shortcuts are that you would be tempted to take, and then figure out a plan for why you're not going to take those. Then if you still are struggling with wanting to take those, like because it costs money and you're wanting to save some money, list out then how those shortcuts could impact your book's success. Because that's helpful for me to see that my book's not going to be successful if I take that shortcut. If I take my photograph and I slap a couple of words on there, and I make the title and I'm like, I have a cover, I did it in Canva, it's good enough, that shortcut is going to hurt your book. You're going to want something professionally done. Okay, so I'm going to get off my soapbox there, but then list out some of the long-term benefits that come from doing things the right way, because it's helpful kind of to look at the big picture on why I want to do it well, because I'm going to thank myself someday when I do it well. I'm going to thank myself the first time someone picks up my book at a book table when I'm selling it and says, ooh, I love this cover. That felt so good to hear people say that. It also feels good when they pick it up and they're like, ooh, I like the way this cover feels because I chose like a matte cover or something. Anyway, avoid shortcuts. Okay, the last one, that when you're treating your publishing as a business, as the CEO, you need to know your weaknesses. Identify the areas where you might need support and then create a plan to address them. What are your biggest challenges as an indie publisher? What do you not know that you need to know? Don't you like that sentence? Who can you turn to for help, and how will you overcome these challenges? When you know what they are, you're going to know how to fill in the gaps, and you're going to know what questions you need to ask to somebody. Ultimately, being an indie publisher means taking full responsibility for your book's success. So I'm giving you a worksheet to guide your journey so that you can ensure that you approach every aspect of publishing with the seriousness and the dedication that it deserves. This has been another episode of Indie Author Blueprint, and I will be back with another episode soon where we are going to be looking at, let me look at my plan here. We're going to be talking about publishing platforms.